Previously, Joseph was sold by his brothers to Egyptian merchants passing by. They carried him south, setting out on the journey to Egypt. Upon arrival in Egypt, Joseph was sold into the household of Potiphar. Potiphar was an official of Pharaoh, responsible for the affairs of the royal guard. He stood within Egypt's system of power, a man who measured people by tasks and results. He judged a person not by words or origin, but by whether responsibilities were properly fulfilled. In his world, ability meant order, and order allowed trust to exist. During this time, Joseph's way of working gradually became evident. He labored alongside the others, neither seeking position nor avoiding assigned tasks. When assistance was needed, he stepped in, allowing the work to continue without interruption. The tasks placed in his hands were completed with care, without neglect, and with little disorder. Whether small duties or routine labor, he carried them out with consistency. Over time, the matters entrusted to him began to show different results. What passed through Joseph's hands began to prosper. The household expanded, and his master's possessions increased. These changes were not isolated moments, but occurred repeatedly in everything Joseph touched. Scripture records that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's household because of Joseph, and all that belonged to him, both in the house and in the field, was blessed through him. As a result, Potiphar first placed smaller responsibilities under Joseph, then gradually entrusted him with matters of greater weight. From routine tasks to the daily ordering of the household, Joseph's authority was raised step by step. In time, most affairs of the estate were under his oversight, and his position within the household was no longer that of an ordinary slave. From that point on, Potiphar no longer concerned himself with how the estate was run. He gave attention only to the food he ate, knowing nothing else. In this complete trust, he lived without concern, placing all that he owned into Joseph's care. And everything in his master's house prospered. All that he did found favor in his master's eyes. Joseph was handsome, and the goodness he displayed also drew the attention of Potiphar's wife. She spoke to Joseph again and again, pressing him day after day to lie with her. But Joseph refused, standing firm, unwilling to yield. He said to his master's wife, "My master has entrusted everything in this house to my care. There is no one greater in this house than I. He has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" One day, Joseph entered the house to carry out his duties, and at that time no one else was inside, the place silent and still. It was in such a moment that temptation approached, appearing when no one was watching. Potiphar's wife suddenly came forward and seized his garment, demanding that he stay and be with her. Joseph did not pause and did not argue. He broke free, left the garment behind, and ran straight for the door. She stood there, staring at the garment in her hand, her anger burning. Unable to have him, she chose to destroy him. She then turned and summoned the household servants. Holding up the garment, she accused him before them, saying that the Hebrew brought into the house had mocked her. She claimed that when she cried out loudly, he heard her voice, left the garment, and fled. She kept Joseph's garment beside her until his master came home. When Potiphar returned, she said to him, "The Hebrew servant you brought into the house came in to mock me." She presented the garment before him, and said that when she cried out, he heard her voice, left the garment, and fled. When Potiphar heard these words, his anger burned. He took Joseph and put him into the prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined, and Joseph was cast into the prison, the doors closing behind him, leaving only cold and darkness. In such a moment, he continued to cry out to God, and the peace of God was with him. He labored in the prison with the others, returned once more to the work of a slave. What he did was done steadily, without display and without neglect. And God's favor was with him. The keeper of the prison noticed this, showed him special regard among the prisoners, and entrusted many responsibilities into his hands. He was placed in the place where the king's prisoners were confined, there to care for the other prisoners. Days passed. During the same period, in the court of the king of Egypt, the chief baker was the first to fail. His duty was to prepare food for the king, serving near the royal table. A single mistake caused him to offend the king of Egypt, and he was marked in the king's mind. Not long after, still within the same court, the chief cupbearer also failed in his duty. His role was to serve the king's wine, attending him closely. At a certain moment, that responsibility went wrong, and he too offended the king of Egypt. They were both placed into the prison and confined in the section under Joseph's care. One night, God gave dreams to both of them. No one knew that this day would change several lives. The next day, Joseph noticed that they were troubled and asked them what was wrong. They said they had dreams, but no one could interpret them. Joseph replied that interpretations belonged to God. He asked them to tell him their dreams. Then the cupbearer told his dream to Joseph. He said that he dreamed of a vine with 3 branches. The branches budded, the buds slowly grew, then they blossomed. The flowers spread along the branches, and finally they bore fruit, until the vine was full of ripe grapes. He was holding Pharaoh's cup in his hand, took the grapes, pressed them into the cup, and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. Joseph interpreted the dream and said that the 3 branches were 3 days, and that within 3 days Pharaoh would release him and restore him to his position as cupbearer, so that he would once again serve Pharaoh and place the cup in his hand. Then Joseph asked him that when he was restored, he should remember him, speak of him to Pharaoh, and bring him out of the prison, explaining that he had been taken from the land of the Hebrews and had done nothing to deserve being imprisoned. When the baker saw that the interpretation was favorable, he also told his dream to Joseph, saying that he dreamed of having 3 baskets of white bread on his head, and that in the top basket were all kinds of baked food for Pharaoh, but birds were eating them from the basket. Joseph answered that this was the interpretation. The 3 baskets were 3 days, and within 3 days, Pharaoh would lift off his head, hang him on a tree, and the birds would eat his flesh. The baker was filled with fear. On the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, Pharaoh made a feast for all his officials and celebrated in the palace with great honor. This moment became the beginning of a turning point. On a day filled with laughter in the palace, Pharaoh remembered the cupbearer and the baker who were held in prison. Pharaoh sent word and had them released from the prison. Everything happened just as Joseph had said. The baker was put to death, and birds came to eat his body. But the cupbearer was restored to his position, returned to Pharaoh's side, and continued to serve the king. Days passed, yet the cupbearer forgot what Joseph had done for him and what he had asked of him. And there, in the prison of Egypt, a land not his own, Joseph was betrayed again.